The sandstorm had been dead for 6 hours when Sergeant Marcus Cole found the metal edge gleaming beneath the dunes. His squad was 3 clicks ahead, and he should have kept moving, should have ignored it like every other piece of debris the Kethrani war had scattered across this godforsaken planet. But something about the way the light caught that surface made him stop. "Command, this is Cole. Found something. Requesting 15 minutes to investigate." Static. Then, "Granted. Make it quick." He dropped to his knees and began digging with his combat knife. The container was smaller than he expected, maybe 2 feet long, cylindrical, covered in script he didn't recognize. Not Kethrani. Not human. Something older. His fingers found a seam along the side, and that's when he heard it. "Please." Marcus froze. The voice was thin, reedy, like wind through a broken pipe. But, unmistakably, words. "Please, don't open it." He pulled his hand back as if burned. "Who's there?" Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then, "If you open this container, you will regret it. I am begging you. Walk away." Marcus had been a soldier for 12 years. He'd fought across 4 planets, watched friends die in ways that still visited him at night, and learned to trust nothing that spoke from dark places. Every instinct screamed at him to bury this thing and forget he'd ever found it. Instead, he said, "Why? Because what is inside cannot be undone." That's not an answer. Another pause. When the voice came again, it was quieter. "Because I am tired. Because I have been buried for so long that I have forgotten what light looks like. And because if you open this, you will become responsible for me. You don't want that burden." Marcus sat back on his heels. The twin suns were beginning their descent, painting the sky in shades of rust and amber. His squad was waiting. Command was waiting. The whole damn war was waiting. "What are you?" he asked. Something that should stay forgotten. He thought about his empty quarters back at base. The messages from his sister he never answered. The way sleep came harder every year, and the dreams that filled the gaps when it did. "I've carried worse," he said, and drove his knife into the seam. The container hissed open like a dying breath. Inside, curled in on itself, was something that looked almost like a child, if children were made of pale blue skin and had eyes like liquid silver, and too many fingers on hands that trembled as light touched them for the first time in what might have been centuries. The creature flinched away from him, pressing itself against the far end of the container. Those silver eyes were wide with something Marcus recognized intimately. Fear. "I told you," it whispered. "I told you not to open it." "Yeah, well." Marcus holstered his knife. "I've never been good at following orders." The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. "You don't understand. I am Velkari. Do you know what that means? No. It means I am bound. To whoever frees me. Until death." Those silver eyes met his, and there was something ancient in them. Something that had seen too much. "Your death or mine. There is no undoing this." Marcus stared at the creature, at the way its thin chest heaved with rapid breaths, at the marks on its wrists that suggested the container hadn't always been its only prison. He thought about walking away. He thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. "What's your name?" he asked instead. The creature blinked. "What? Your name? You have one, right?" It seemed genuinely confused by the question. "I am called Whisper." "I was called Whisper. Before." "Before what?" Those silver eyes dropped. "Before I became something to be buried." Marcus extended his hand. The creature, Whisper, stared at it like it was a weapon. "I'm Sergeant Marcus Cole," he said. "And I'm probably going to regret this, but you can't stay in that box forever. You should leave me here, probably." He kept his hand extended. "But I'm not going to." Whisper looked at his hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, with movements that spoke of joints too long unused, it reached out. Its fingers were cool against his palm, lighter than he expected. "You are making a mistake," Whisper said as Marcus helped it from the container. "Story of my life." The creature stood barely to his chest, swaying slightly on legs that seemed uncertain of their purpose. Up close, Marcus could see the faint patterns beneath its skin, like circuitry or veins or something in between. "The bond," Whisper said quietly. "You will feel it soon." "I'm sorry." "Feel what?" But even as he asked, something shifted in his chest. A weight that wasn't quite physical. An awareness that wasn't quite his own. He could sense Whisper's fear like a cold wind, could feel the creature's exhaustion pressing against the edges of his consciousness. "That," Whisper said. "I am sorry. I am so sorry." Marcus took a slow breath. The bond settled into him like a stone dropping into still water, strange but not painful. "Not yet." "Can you walk?" Whisper's silver eyes widened. "You're not angry?" I opened the box. "You told me not to. Seems like any consequences are on me." He turned toward where his squad waited, toward the war that never stopped needing bodies. "Come on. We've got 3 clicks to cover before dark." "I don't understand you," Whisper said, but it followed him. Its steps were unsteady at first, then slowly found their rhythm in the sand. "Join the club," Marcus muttered. "I don't understand me either." They walked in silence toward the dying light, the empty container already half buried by the wind behind them. The base commander looked at Whisper like someone had dropped a live grenade on his desk. "Absolutely not, sir. This is a military installation, Sergeant, not a refugee camp." "And that thing," Whisper, Marcus said quietly. "Its name is Whisper." Commander Heron's jaw tightened. "I don't care if its name is the Queen of England. It's not staying here. We have protocols. Alien contacts go through proper channels, get processed, get buried again." The words came from Whisper, who stood behind Marcus with its arms wrapped around itself, trying to take up as little space as possible. Heron turned his glare on the creature. "What did you say? Your protocols?" Whisper's voice was barely audible. "They involve containment facilities. I know the kind. I have been in them before. Many times. That is how I ended up in that box. And whose fault is that?" Heron leaned forward. "What exactly did you do to get yourself sealed away in the middle of nowhere?" Whisper's silver eyes flickered to Marcus, then away. "I refused to let my previous bonded die alone. It was not permitted." Marcus felt something through the bond, a flash of grief so old it had crystallized into something sharp and permanent. He found himself stepping slightly to the side, putting his body between Whisper and the commander's desk. "Sir, with respect, this is happening whether we like it or not. The bond is already formed. Where I go, Whisper goes. That's just how it is." "Then maybe you shouldn't go anywhere, Sergeant. Maybe you should be confined to quarters until we figure out what the hell to do with you." "You could do that." Marcus kept his voice level. "But we're down 30% of our combat strength. Command is breathing down your neck about the Eastern Offensive, and I'm the best scout you've got. You want to bench me over bureaucratic concerns?" Heron's face reddened. For a long moment, Marcus thought he'd pushed too far. Then the commander exhaled through his teeth. "Fine, fall. But that thing stays out of operational areas. It doesn't eat our rations, it doesn't sleep in our bunks, and if it causes any problems, any at all, I'm shipping you both back to Earth on the next transport." "Understood. Understood, sir." Marcus turned and guided Whisper out before Heron could change his mind. They made it halfway down the corridor before Whisper spoke. "You lied. About what?" "You are not the best scout they have." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "No, but I'm the best one who's willing to take risks. Sometimes that amounts to the same thing." Whisper was quiet for a moment. Through the bond, Marcus felt something that might have been curiosity. "You did not have to do that. Defend me. Yeah, well. You're stuck with me, remember? Can't have my burden locked up in some processing center." "I am serious." Marcus stopped walking. He turned to face Whisper, really looking at the creature for the first time since he'd pulled it from that container. In the harsh fluorescent light of the corridor, it looked fragile, thin in a way that suggested too little food over too long a time. Those silver eyes too large in a face that had forgotten how to express anything but wariness. "So am I," he said. "Look, I don't know what kind of bondage you've had before. I don't know who put you in that box or why. But you told me not to open it, and I did anyway. That makes you my responsibility. That is not what the bond means. Maybe not to you, but it's what it means to me." Whisper stared at him with an expression Marcus couldn't read. Then, very quietly, it said, "You are strange, Marcus Cole. I've been called worse. Come on. Let's find you somewhere to sleep that isn't a closet." The first patrol came 3 days later. Marcus had requested solo reconnaissance, a 6-hour sweep of the canyon systems to the north, checking for Kathrani troop movements. Heron had approved it with obvious relief, glad to have both Marcus and his pet out of sight. Whisper walked beside him in silence, matching his pace with an ease that seemed surprising for something so recently unearthed. Through the bond, Marcus felt the creature's constant low-level anxiety, but also something else, a watchfulness that spoke of experience in dangerous places. "You've done this before," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. Whisper's silver eyes scanned the canyon walls. "My first bonded was a soldier. Among my people before everything changed. I have walked through war zones for longer than your species has had written language." "Comforting. Is it?" "No, whoa." They walked in silence for another few minutes. Then Whisper said, "There are 3 Kathrani in the rocks above us. 700 meters east." Marcus didn't look up. "How do you know?" "I can feel their intent. It is, well, a Velkari ability. Emotion detection, but stronger with certain feelings. Pause. Fear. Anger. The desire to harm. These I feel most clearly. And these 3, they are curious. Uncertain. They have not decided whether to attack." Marcus adjusted his grip on his rifle. "Can you tell when they decide?" "Yes. But by then it may be too late." "Then what do you suggest?" Whisper's gaze was still fixed on the canyon walls. Through the bond, Marcus felt something shift. The creature's anxiety crystallizing into something sharper, more focused. Purpose. I suggest we show them that attacking would be inadvisable. Before Marcus could respond, Whisper stepped forward and raised one hand. The patterns beneath its blue skin began to glow, pale white light tracing those circuits or veins in an intricate web. A low hum filled the air, felt more than heard. 700 meters away, rock shattered. Marcus watched 3 Kathrani soldiers tumble from their hiding place, scrambling in panic as the ledge beneath them crumbled. They hit the canyon floor and ran, not looking back. The glow faded. Whisper lowered its hand and swayed slightly. Marcus caught its arm without thinking. What the hell was that, Persuasion? Whisper's voice was thin with exhaustion. I did not hurt them. I simply removed their tactical advantage. That was... You can do that. Sometimes. It is tiring. But I thought... Whisper hesitated. I thought you would prefer a solution without killing. Marcus stared at the creature. Through the bond he felt Whisper's uncertainty. Its fear that it had overstepped, revealed too much, made itself threatening. You thought right, he said finally. That was good work. Whisper blinked. Good? Yeah. Good. Come on, we should move before their friends show up. He started walking, then paused. And next time? Give me some warning before you pull something like that. Yes. I will. They continued through the canyon in silence, but something had changed. The wariness in Whisper's emotions hadn't disappeared, but there was something else beneath it now, a fragile thread of something that might eventually become trust. Marcus pretended not to notice. The ambush came on their 12th patrol together. Marcus had grown accustomed to Whisper's warnings, the slight tilt of its head when it sensed hostile intent, the way its voice dropped when something was wrong. So when Whisper suddenly stopped walking and said nothing at all, just stood perfectly still with its silver eyes gone wide, Marcus knew they were in serious trouble. How many? He asked quietly. Too many. Whisper's hand found his arm, gripping with surprising strength. We have to run, now. They made it maybe 50 meters before the canyon walls erupted with gunfire. Marcus moved on instinct, pulling Whisper behind a rock formation as bullets tore through the air where they'd been standing. He could hear the Kathrani shouting to each other, coordinating, surrounding, cutting off escape routes. Can you do the thing? He asked, already knowing the answer from the exhaustion he felt through the bond. They'd been out for 6 hours. Whisper had used its abilities twice already to warn off smaller patrols. I can try. Don't. Save your strength. Marcus checked his ammunition. 3 magazines. Not enough. How many are there? 23. More coming. Shit. Marcus. Whisper's voice was strange. I need to tell you something. Can it wait until we're not being shot at? No. Because we might not survive this and you deserve to know. Whisper's hand was still on his arm, those 2 long fingers pressing hard enough to bruise. The bond. It doesn't just connect us. When you die, I die. Marcus went still. What? That is how it works. That is how it has always worked. My people were created as companions for warriors, to share their burdens, to die alongside them so they would never face death alone. Whisper's silver eyes met his. That is why they sealed me away. Because the last time, I refused to let my bonded die in battle. I surrendered instead. It violated everything my kind was designed for. The gunfire was getting closer. Marcus could hear the Kathrani advancing, methodical and confident. So if I die here, we both die. Whisper released his arm. But that is not why I told you. I told you because I'm going to do something, and I need you to not stop me. What are you? Whisper stood. Marcus grabbed for its arm, but the creature was already moving, stepping out from behind the rock formation with its hands raised. Stop. Whisper's voice wasn't thin anymore. It rang through the canyon like a bell, and the patterns beneath its skin blazed with light, so bright Marcus had to shield his eyes. If you want the human, you come through me. The gunfire stopped. Through the bond, Marcus felt what Whisper was doing. Not destroying, not attacking, but projecting. Every Kathrani soldier in that canyon was suddenly experiencing Whisper's accumulated centuries of fear, grief, loneliness, and rage. The psychic assault wasn't physical, but it was devastating. Marcus heard soldiers screaming, heard weapons clattering to the ground, heard the sounds of retreat. Then Whisper collapsed. Marcus caught the creature before it hit the ground. Through the bond he felt almost nothing, just a faint flutter like a candle guttering in the wind. Whisper. Whisper. Stay with me. Those silver eyes opened a crack. Did they run? Yeah. They ran. Jesus Christ, what did you do? What I was made for. A ghost of a smile crossed Whisper's pale features, protecting my bonded. See? I can follow orders when they matter. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You opened my box. You have no room to criticize. Marcus laughed, a harsh, broken sound that surprised him. His arms tightened around Whisper's too light body. Don't do that again. I cannot promise that. Whisper's eyes were drifting closed. But I will try to warn you first. Marcus carried Whisper back to base. It took 4 hours, and twice he had to stop because the creature's vital signs dropped to almost nothing. Each time, he sat in the sand and held Whisper against his chest and talked. About nothing. About everything. About his sister's messages and the nightmares he never mentioned, and the way the war had hollowed him, one battle at a time. He wasn't sure if Whisper could hear him. He talked anyway. When they finally reached the base, Whisper was still breathing. Barely. But still. The medics didn't know what to do with the Valkyrie, so Marcus stayed in the medical bay. Watching monitors he couldn't read and holding one of Whisper's hands because it seemed like the right thing to do. Commander Heron appeared in the doorway at some point. Marcus didn't look up. Heard what happened out there? Yeah. Also heard your count of Kethrani casualties was 0. Yeah. A long pause. Then, get some rest, Sergeant. That's an order. Marcus didn't rest. He sat beside Whisper's bed through the night, and sometime before dawn he felt the bond strengthen, felt Whisper's consciousness swimming back toward the surface. You're still here, Whisper murmured without opening its eyes. Where else would I be? Anywhere. I am a burden, remember. Marcus tightened his grip on Whisper's hand. Turns out burdens can be worth carrying. Whisper's eyes opened, silver and ancient and somehow impossibly wet with tears. That is not what the bond is supposed to mean. Maybe we're doing it wrong, Marcus said. Maybe we should keep doing it wrong. For the first time since Marcus had found that sealed container, Whisper smiled, really smiled, without fear or exhaustion or ancient grief. It was a fragile thing, uncertain of its own existence. But it was a start. The Kethrani came in force 3 months later. Marcus had known they would. The eastern offensive had stalled, supply lines were stretched thin, and the enemy had been massing troops for weeks. What he hadn't known, what no one had known, was that the target would be their base. The attack began at dawn. By noon they'd lost the outer perimeter. By sunset they were fighting in the corridors. We need to evacuate, Marcus said, pressing his hand against the wound in his side. Not fatal. Probably not fatal. There's a transport in Hangar CC, that hangar fell an hour ago. Commander Heron's face was gray. We're cut off, Sergeant. What's left of us is making a stand in the command center, but it's only a matter of time. Through the bond, Marcus felt Whisper's presence, a steady warmth that had become as familiar as his own heartbeat over the past 3 months. The creature was somewhere behind him, silent and watchful, doing what it always did, sensing the intent of their enemies, guiding Marcus around ambushes and through weak points in the Kethrani lines. How many hostiles? Marcus asked. 2,000, maybe more. They want the base intact. Once they have it, they can strike at 4 different colony worlds. Heron laughed bitterly. High Command is talking about orbital bombardment. Sterilizing the whole area before the Kethrani can dig in. Marcus felt his stomach drop. They'd kill everyone. Us included. High Command considers that an acceptable loss. Marcus. Whisper's voice was quiet, meant only for him. I need to speak with you. He turned. The creature's silver eyes were calm, calmer than they'd been since he'd first cracked open that container in the desert. Through the bond he felt something strange. Not fear, not exhaustion, but a terrible peaceful certainty. Whatever you're about to say, Marcus started, the answer is no. You do not know what I am about to say. I know that look. It's the same look you had when you walked out in front of 23 Kethrani soldiers. Whisper stepped closer. Those 2 long fingers reached up to touch Marcus's face, a gesture that had become familiar over their months together, the creature's way of communicating when words weren't enough. The Valkyrie were not just created to die alongside our bonded, Whisper said softly. We were created to die for them, when necessary. Whisper, I can feel every hostile mind in this area. 27 to be precise. If I project hard enough, far enough, I can stop them. All of them. Permanently. Marcus grabbed Whisper's wrist. That would kill you. Yes. Then no. Absolutely not. Marcus dot. Whisper's voice was patient, gentle. If I do not do this, everyone in this base dies. You die. And then I die anyway. Because that is how the bond works. A pause. This way, only I die, and you live. I don't accept that. You do not have to accept it. You just have to let me do it. Marcus was shaking. He could feel it in his hands, in his chest, in the place where the bond connected them. He could feel Whisper's resolve, solid and unbreakable and terrifying. There has to be another way, perhaps, but we do not have time to find it. Whisper's hand was still on his face, thumb tracing his cheekbone. You taught me something, Marcus Cole. In 3 months, you taught me that a bond does not have to be about ownership or obligation. It can be about choice. About caring for someone not because you were designed to, but because you want to. Then choose to stay, Marcus whispered. I am choosing. I am choosing you. I am choosing your life over my own because that is what you deserve. Not because of the bond. Because of who you are. Whisper, please, tell me about your sister. The request was so unexpected that Marcus faltered. What? You have told me she sends messages. That you never answer. Tell me why. We don't have time for this. Tell me. Marcus closed his eyes. Somewhere in the distance, explosions shook the base. The Kethrani were getting closer. Because I don't know what to say to her, he admitted. Because I left home to fight a war that never ended, and I've seen things I can't explain to someone who hasn't been here. Because I'm not the person she remembers and I don't know how to tell her that. Then tell her what you told me. Whisper's voice was impossibly soft. Tell her about the nightmares. Tell her about the fear. Tell her that you are still alive, still fighting, still capable of connection despite everything this war has done to you. Those silver eyes shimmered. Tell her about me if you want. Tell her about the strange creature you found in the desert who taught you that some burdens are worth carrying. Whisper, promise me. Promise me you will answer her messages. Marcus's throat was too tight to speak. He nodded. Whisper smiled. That same fragile smile from the medical bay, but stronger now. More certain. Good. Creature stepped back, and the patterns beneath its skin began to glow. It was an honor to be bound to you, Marcus Cole. If there's another life after this one, I hope I find you there. No, wait. The light blazed. Marcus tried to reach for Whisper, but something pushed him back. Not physically, but through the bond itself. He felt the creature's power rising, building, reaching outward in an ever-expanding wave. He felt every Kethrani soldier it touched, felt the moment their hostile intent simply stopped. And he felt Whisper. Not dying. Not fading. But holding on, clinging to consciousness through sheer force of will, pouring everything into the projection and refusing to let go. Through the bond, Marcus heard a voice he knew. Not yet. I changed my mind. Not yet. Again, the light consumed everything. Marcus woke in a hospital bed on a transport ship 3 days later. His first thought was that the bond was gone, that empty space in his chest where Whisper had lived for 3 months. But when he reached for it, truly reached, he found something else. A thread. Thin, fragile, barely there. But there. He was out of bed and moving before the nurses could stop him, following that thread through corridors and compartments until he found a small medical bay near the back of the ship. The door was sealed, marked with warnings about quarantine and unknown xenobiology. Marcus opened it anyway. Whisper lay on a bed that seemed too large for its diminished form. The creature's blue skin was pale, almost translucent, and those circuit-like patterns beneath were dark. But its chest rose and fell. Its silver eyes opened as Marcus entered. You're supposed to be resting, Whisper said. Its voice was barely a whisper. Appropriately, Marcus thought, and almost laughed. So are you. He crossed to the bed and sat on its edge. They told me you were in a coma. They told me you'd probably never wake up. They do not know very much about Velkari. A pause. Neither do I, anymore. I have never done what I did. I did not know it was survivable. What changed your mind? Whisper's eyes met his. Your promise to answer your sister's messages. I realized that if I died, you would have no one to make sure you kept that promise. That's the stupidest reason I've ever heard. You opened a box after a voice inside begged you not to. You have no room to criticize. Marcus laughed, properly laughed, for the first time since the attack. His hand found Whisper's, those cool fingers wrapping around his. The war? Whisper asked. The Kethrani are pulling back. Whatever you did, it broke their offensive. High Command is talking about peace negotiations. Marcus squeezed its hand. You saved a lot of lives. I saved one life. The others were incidental. Still counts. They sat in silence for a moment. Through the bond, still there, still holding, Marcus felt Whisper's exhaustion, its pain, its slowly building hope. Marcus, the creature said eventually. When you found that container, I told you not to open it. I told you that you would regret it, I remember. Do you? Regret it? Marcus looked at Whisper, at this strange, ancient, impossible being that had somehow become the most important thing in his life. At the creature who had stepped between him and death, who had chosen to live because he'd asked it to, who had taught him that some connections were worth the risk. Not for a single second, he said. Whisper's hand tightened on his. Through the bond, Marcus felt something shift. Something old and hurt finally beginning to heal. Neither do I, Whisper said quietly. Neither do I. Outside the transport's windows, stars wheeled slowly past, carrying them toward a future neither of them had expected to see. And somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a sealed container lay empty and forgotten beneath the desert sands. A prison that had become, against all odds, the beginning of something like home.